Hi, my name is Chester Johnson. I'm the co-founder of the Stockteamup app. I'm here today with Guivens Andre. He's a friend of mine that invests also. He's an entrepreneur that we talk about investing with. Givens, what? Tell me about your business.
Yeah, man. I teach eighth grade English for Boston Public Schools, and I I was having a hard time really interacting and getting my parents, the students of my parents, engaged. And I thought to myself, I really wish there was a way that I could help them out. And then I came up with this idea of teaching them English, and that's really what started Amie, with my startup. So Amie is actually a language software that teaches English in a relevant contextual manner to low income, non-English speaking immigrants. The name Amie actually stems from my mom, who is an immigrant from Haiti.
Yeah.
And we are actually, well, I named it that because I was looking to personalize the struggles of immigrants in the US through my mother's name, and that's what Ing is all about, and that's where the name stemmed from.
Awesome. Well, for weeks now, we've been talking about investing. I've been investing for 20, 25 years. Givens has been investing for a few years, but with the pandemic, we talked a lot more about what were opportunities and not. And it got me inspired to want to answer questions of investors that they may have and share them with people so that they can get their answers from someone that's just straightforward and honest about investing. So, Givens, talk a little bit about what we've been doing during the pandemic,
Yeah,
what kind of trades occurred, and so forth.
yeah. Well, pretty much you've been very, very resourceful. Have a lot going on, man, with the startup. So it's like working on the startup, and then at the same time finding ways to actually invest and take advantage of the stock market when a lot of the shares were down. I've been able to take advantage of. Well, first, I want to say I've been investing in Apple for about 3 years now, 3.5 years. So I have a pretty decent sized portfolio with Apple stocks. But I was only comfortable with investing in Apple because that's all I knew. I worked for the company, and that's all I knew. I trusted them. Their stocks have really never failed me. And I, for some reason, couldn't step outside of investing in Apple. But after talking with you, and you gave me some knowledge, I was able to get out of that comfort zone. And after our conversation, started investing in companies like Tesla, um, Boeing, and Bitcoin. And so I've really been able to take advantage of those companies. I remember buying uh, 4 shares of Boeing for like $98. Um, and when the shares grew to $172, I got overzealous and sold them. So, which is like, it was like, a big mistake on my end because the share Boeing shares actually skyrocketed a little bit more after I sold them, and so that was a loss there. But I learned from that mistake and eventually bought Tesla for $432 one share. I bought one share of Tesla for $432, which is a lot of money. And I waited and waited, and eventually I more than doubled my initial investment, my return, and that was pretty exciting as well. And I ended up selling that.
So full disclosure to everyone watching, it all sounds good right now. We both did really well on these stocks, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah,
But you have to understand, when we were talking, uh, the market had just gone through a second circuit breaker. A circuit breaker happens when the stock market's falling so much that they have to stop trading because people are just panicking and the market's crashing too much.
right.
So this was the time. So it's easy now after the fact to say, oh yeah, it was easy, we made a ton of money. But the truth is, I never give suggestions lightly. I warned Givens, man, this could be bad, man. We could just
Yeah,
go,
you
we could
did.
bust. And I felt that too. I was like, this could go really bad if people don't calm down and just keep selling, and we could lose our shirts.
Right.
So just remember that when someone talks to you about investing, because if they're not worried about suggesting something and they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be just fine, then they are probably not someone that you should be talking to about investing.
Well, also what I've learned, you know, throughout my years of investing, but also after meeting you, I got better at it. This skill called patience.
Yes.
Yo, like, listen, I can't tell you. So listen, over the over the pandemic, before the pandemic, Apple was climbing at like 323 shares. I'm sorry, $323 a share.
Yeah.
The pandemic hit, it dropped all the way down to 220. I lost over $8,000 of Apple stocks, and after talking to you, um, really, I really wasn't worried. I still played my game, monitored, the market, and watched. And literally, I want to say middle of May, Apple stock started shooting back up, and now we're in June to a point where it's now sitting at 351 right now. And so patience is like so huge, and it's something that I've been able to master throughout the years, and I keep getting better at when
Good.
playing this game, investing in the stock market.
Good. I say this to everyone, and I really mean it. I think anyone can be a good investor.
Right.
What you have to be careful with is if you're trying to become a trader. If you're trying to do a buy and a sell every day,
Right.
every week,
Right.
man, there's a lot of algorithms. I used to make them in the hedge fund world, and they're just going to eat you alive. Unless you're dedicated for like 6 to 8 hours a day to it,
Right.
you can't really win as a trader. But as an investor, I feel very confident that even if you're doing your entrepreneurial work, you're doing a 9 to 5 job, you can still, with a little bit of knowledge, you can do really well investing. I really believe.
And you're the guru, so I definitely got some.
Not a guru. No, that is not true. I guess not true.
Yeah, I got some questions for you. I actually
Sure.
have an iPad full of questions for you. So I'm going to start off with, some pretty lightweights and then work my way up to some challenging ones.
Sure.
Um, so my first question for you would be, um, what are the benefits of owning stocks actually? Like, why is it so important to own stocks?
That's a great question. I'm going to give an answer that people don't ever think about. If you think about stocks as a way to make money,
Right,
that's not really all there is to it.
right,
Owning stocks is something more than just, oh, my bank account got a little higher, I have some more dividends. When you own stock, you own things, you own stuff, you own processes, you own machines, equipment. And when you're a stockholder, for beginning investors, they may not know this,
right,
you own rights to that company.
right.
You
Exactly.
have the right to vote for who your leadership is. You have a right to hire and fire board of directors. Um, Obviously, you get a vote, and if you have less shares, you have a smaller vote.
Right,
And you have a right to the profits of that company in the form of dividends.
right,
And, if you look at it as just numbers going up and down, it looks like gambling. But
right,
if you look at it as in terms of, hey, I own all those power lines to that utility company, so if one goes down, that's my stock.
right,
That's really what's happening there.
right.
So owning stocks is about having a higher awareness of how our economy works,
Yep.
and then having rights to those organizations.
Right.
I would love it if it, I would be completely happy if one day on Stock Boss Up, everyone just suddenly agreed that some random CEO was like the worst ever, and we all bought stocks in that company and fired him or her. It would be amazing. It would be so. I'd retire. I wouldn't even care. I'd be like, okay, we did it. Because we finally did what's the right thing to do when you own
Right,
stocks is influence companies,
right,
and that's, I think, more important than the money part of it. Because
right.
if you buy stocks, you know a little bit, you'll make money. I feel confident saying that. But
Right.
if you,
I agree.
yeah,
I agree. I agree with that. I would agree with that. Okay, so my second question for you um, would be, how much money do you need to begin to invest? Because like I just told you, I bought Tesla. One share was for over $400, right? And so, like, how much money do you need $400 to start investing?
See, the problem with so give you disclaimers, right? Tesla, when you bought it, was $400. It's $1,000 right now. You made a ton of money. It doesn't matter the share price of a stock. Never ever worry about the share price. It's arbitrary, and with technologies now, you can buy partial shares, so
Right,
no stock is out of anyone's league.
right,
I'm never going to talk about how much money you need to start. I always say I've done the calculations. I know it for a fact. If you have a minimum wage job, if you have a minimum wage job,
mhm,
and let's say maybe you don't have a family, if you're a single person,
mhm,
you can control your expenses so that you can invest enough. You can
right.
invest every month. I know because I started when I had a minimum wage job in high school.
Ah,
I just you can save if you have like $100, done. Just go for it. I think that there's no amount
okay,
minimum to start.
okay, cool, cool, awesome. Great one. So you actually just sort of kind of touched upon it just now, talking about fractional shares and stuff like that. So there's fractional shares, right? And then there's whole shares, whole share purchasing. Like what's the difference and what's the advantage of one over the other?
So some companies will do it where you can buy fractional shares, and I wish I remember the acronym for it, but it's called DRIP. I don't know what it stands for. I apologize. But it's essentially they'll just reinvest your dividends
Mhm.
into partial shares of the company.
Right,
These are programs that you can do directly with the companies,
right.
and then it's like negligible brokerage fees to do that. But essentially, if you can find the right brokerage, do some
Mhm.
research, you can buy a partial share of that Tesla stock or buy a partial share of that Google stock.
Right.
There really isn't there's no reason why you can't really own any of these stocks regardless of the share price, because the
Okay.
share price is arbitrary. They
Okay.
have share prices all the time to
Okay.
make it look more affordable to retail investors.
Okay. So dividends, what are those?
Dividends is just a process to get your profits as an owner of a company. You're not a stockholder, you're an owner of the company. If you think about it like that, then
Right.
dividends are just you getting that profit. If you own some McDonald's stock and McDonald's sold a whole bunch of burgers,
Right.
you get a profit of the amount of you know of burgers they sold if they made a profit that
Okay.
year.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
it.
Okay. Um, so I think I'll ask you two more questions that I really have.
Sure.
That being, what do you, so you're profiting, right? When the stock market goes up off of an investment that you make, do you have to pay tax
Yes.
the money you make? And what is that
So
like?
so the reality of America is we really like to benefit businesses. I don't think it's a horrible strategy sometimes, but it's not the best strategy. So if you get capital gains, which is profit on a stock increasing in value, or
Okay.
if you get a dividend, which is just taking the profits from the company to you,
Okay.
you have to pay a capital gains, and it varies depending on who's in charge or whatever. But typically, it's less than the income tax you have to pay from having a normal job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And so we know the stock market goes up and down, right? And like there's so many various factors that play into that. What would you say are some of the things that, you know, impacts the stock going up or down?
So a little secret sauce of my own that I do. One of the reasons why I felt a little more confident during the second circuit breaker that occurred in March,
Yeah.
there's a reality of what a stock's price really should be.
Okay.
Uh, Google stock is around $1,500, $2,000 right now. Uh, it can't be $2 billion. that'd be way overvalued. And it
Mhm.
can't be $2. That's probably way undervalued.
Mhm.
And if you go to Stock Boss Up and check out the Ultimate Guide, we talk in basic math about the how to value a company.
Right. Okay.
But in the long run, it's consistent from my research that the stock price will always converge back to the fair market value, which
Mhm.
is this calculation, which is basically how much money does the company have, how much assets do they have, and what's their earnings, how much money are they making.
Okay.
So if we make it very basic, we have a company that has $100 in the bank
Mhm.
and it makes $20 a year.
Mhm.
Well, $20 a year. How much would you pay for that? Would you pay $200 for that? Probably. That's probably about a good play. I wouldn't spend $10,000 for a company like that. You know, so there's a range where stocks should be at. So I always recommend to people to look at the earnings and try to figure out what the fair value is, and then you can have an understanding of what the market's doing. The flip side of that is people are hyper emotional. I'm hyper emotional when I do stocks. You are,
Clearly, bro.
hedge funds are,
I was
everyone
done.
has emotions because it's all logical until things are in chaos.
Yep.
And you know, usually when you're doing the opposite of what the emotions are, you'll do okay. But patience is also important there. So if people are panicking,
Mhm.
maybe wait another 2 weeks and just let them
Okay.
continue panicking, and then
Okay.
maybe start buying. That's kind of what Givens and I pretty much did. Was we waited patiently until the panic was just so extreme. We're like,
Yep.
that's probably time to buy. But there's a
Yep.
lot of emotions. That's only short term though. Short term is emotions. Long term, the stocks will go back to their fair market value because there's a lot of analysts just looking at this all day, and they're recommending stuff to mutual funds and hedge funds who are the main market makers, and so prices will converge back to what reality should be.
Okay. Awesome. Cool.
Vince, thank you so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it. Where can we find more information about your business, man?
Well, right now we are I'm getting it trademarked, man. I'm getting the logo trademarked. I'm getting hey man, look, I'm learning so much and I'm learning so much from you and I'm learning just so much from my mentors. I have some fabulous mentors. Um, People like Bob Brennan, Bennett Collin, whose startup was actually acquired by GoDaddy, Ed Jennings, some valuable people that I'm learning every day from them. And I do have social media outlets where people can begin to go and check out Amie. Um, it is English Amie underscore at Instagram on Instagram, and it's going to also be English Amie underscore on Twitter. And that's really our main outlets as well. You can find us on Facebook at uh, English Amie at English Amie. Amie spelled Amie. But you'll be able to see updates and learn about launch and everything you need to know.
Awesome. You can find us at on Twitter at the Stock Boss Up handle, and on Facebook at Stock Boss Up. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.